Trust no one.
The movie begins in Paris, where our assassin, known by the nickname the Paris Killer, is famous for his flawless record, never making a mistake. Upon taking on a new assignment, he rents an office directly across from a hotel, an ideal vantage point to observe the area and track his potential target. The killer adheres to a strict set of principles, living so meticulously that he never breaks the law. He knows that even the smallest mistake could reveal his identity and ruin his legendary reputation. The killer was exceptionally cautious, leaving no trace of fingerprints or DNA, fully aware that even the smallest mistake could lead to his capture. After 5 days of quietly surveilling his target with no significant developments, he contacted his handler, ready to pull back. But the handler insisted he wait just a little longer. Reluctantly, he agreed to extend his watch for another 2 days. That night, as he quietly prepared his weapons, he suddenly heard footsteps approaching. Instantly alert, he braced himself for action, only to find it was a courier. Without a word, the messenger placed an envelope on the floor and quickly left. In the dead of night, he was jolted awake, immediately noticing movement in the top floor room. Recognizing that his target had arrived, he quickly readied his rifle and took position for the perfect shot. With surgical precision, he calculated every detail, the angle, wind speed, and every other variable that could affect the path of the bullet. It seemed everything was aligned for a flawless execution. But when he fired, the shot missed its mark, striking the woman who was with the target instead. Realizing things had spiraled out of control, he swiftly erased all evidence of his presence and made a hasty escape. Heading straight for the airport, he left behind irreparable chaos in his wake. In a hurry to leave the office building, he carefully erased every trace that could link him to the scene. As he left Paris behind, the killer contacted his handler to report the mission failure. The handler cautioned him about potential repercussions, but the killer remained unfazed. Coldly, he reassured them that he would take care of the situation soon. However, as he surveyed his surroundings, he noticed a suspicious figure nearby. His instincts told him this person could be a mercenary sent to eliminate him. The looming sense of danger immediately put him on high alert, ready to respond to any situation that might unfold. The killer rented a hotel room near the airport, preparing to confront the uninvited guest. To ensure his safety, he set up a simple yet effective alarm system, a glass on the doorknob and a metal plate at the base of the door to detect any movement. Armed with a knife, he sat in tense silence, waiting. By midnight, he realized his mistake. The stranger was nothing more than an innocent traveler. The following morning, the killer checked out of the hotel and flew to a safe house in the Dominican Republic. Upon arrival, he noticed cigarette butts and unfamiliar footprints, unmistakable signs that someone had been there before him. The moment the killer realized someone had broken in, he armed himself and slipped inside, moving like a shadow. The house was a battlefield, furniture overturned, shattered dishes strewn across the floor, and streaks of blood staining the walls. A chilling sense of dread crept over him. Then came the call that made his blood run cold. His girlfriend was in the hospital. Rushing to her side, he was met by Marcus, her relative, who delivered the grim truth. 2 strangers had come for him, but found her instead. They had tortured her relentlessly, demanding answers she refused to give. Even in the face of unbearable pain, she never betrayed him. And in one final act of defiance, she seized her chance, twisting free just enough to drive a blade into the leg of one attacker, forcing them to flee. After speaking with his girlfriend and piecing together what had happened, the killer ensured she received the best medical care, slipping the doctors a generous sum to guarantee it. Then, back at his house, he unearthed a hidden chest. Inside lay forged documents, stacks of cash, and an arsenal of weapons. The memories of her suffering seared into his mind, fueling an unrelenting thirst for vengeance. His first lead, the criminals had arrived in a green taxi. Gripping onto that thread, he began his hunt. It was not long before he traced the vehicle to a transportation company specializing in green taxis. With patience and cold precision, he closed in on the driver who had brought them. Step by step, methodical and relentless, he moved closer to his prey, letting no detail escape his scrutiny. Under the cover of night, the killer infiltrated the administrative building, sifting through records until he uncovered the identity of the taxi driver, Leo Rodriguez. With a description in hand, he began his hunt, shadowing every move of Leo, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the time came, he slipped into Leo's taxi undetected and lay in wait. The moment Leo slid into the driver's seat, he felt the unmistakable press of cold steel against his temple. Frozen with fear, he had no choice but to comply. Under the assassin-piercing gaze, Leo stammered out everything he knew about the man and woman he had driven the day before. His hands trembled on the wheel as he realized the truth. This was no ordinary man. This was a predator, relentless and merciless, who would stop at nothing to get the answers he sought. Paralyzed by fear, the driver obeyed every command, his hands shaking as he confessed he had picked up the two individuals from the airport. That was all the killer needed to hear. Without hesitation, he took the driver down, ensuring there were no witnesses, then vanished into the night, his destination, New Orleans. Upon arrival, he rented a white truck and drove straight to one of his hidden safe houses. Inside, he accessed a secured storage unit, revealing an arsenal of fake license plates, firearms, and ammunition. Everything was meticulously arranged, waiting for this moment. With cold precision, he began preparing for what came next. At dawn, he visited a hardware store, purchasing a pneumatic nail gun, a trash can, and other essential tools. With everything in place, he drove downtown toward the building of Dolores. The lack of security worked in his favor. Only a single camera guarded the entrance, making it effortless for him to slip inside unnoticed. He waited patiently for the arrival of the courier, blending seamlessly into the surroundings in the disguise of a doorman. The moment the courier stepped in, he timed his move perfectly, slipping through the closing door undetected. Inside, he remained poised, waiting for the opportune moment. Then, with swift precision, he drew his gun and aimed it at the secretary, his cold gaze leaving no room for defiance. Frozen in fear, she had no choice but to comply.
Go ahead.
Without hesitation, he ordered Hodges and his assistant to be restrained, then methodically smashed every computer and tablet in sight, erasing all traces of data.
Not in a million years.
This'll be resolved in a moment, darling, I promise you.
Who were they?
Turning his attention to Hodges, he demanded the identities of his clients. But the handler remained defiant, refusing to divulge a single name. Instead, he fixed the killer with a knowing gaze and delivered a chilling reminder. His mistake had been unforgivable, and the consequences were inevitable. No one would grant him absolution, he warned. The only path left was confession, the sole chance at redemption in a world that would never forget.
Who do you think you're trying to intimidate?
Without a pause of a moment, the killer raised the nail gun and fired, driving a nail deep into the chest of Hodges.
Unless.
His voice was icy, his demand absolute. He wanted a name. He gave Hodges only minutes to comply. But before the lawyer could utter a single word, his life slipped away in silence.
I need that information, Edward. And you're running out of time.
Dolores, witnessing the inevitable, knew there was no escape. She looked at the killer with quiet resignation, pleading for a swift and painless end. If nothing else, she hoped her death would secure the life insurance she had arranged for her children, a final act of protection in a fate she could no longer outrun. The killer did not hesitate. He granted her request, not out of mercy, but because she held the key to what he needed. She alone knew who the client was, the one responsible for making his girlfriend suffer. Her life was a price he was willing to pay to reach his goal. With the deed done, the killer and the secretary slipped out of the office building, vanishing into the night. Their destination, her house. The next phase of his meticulously crafted plan was about to unfold. After discarding the body of the lawyer in the trash, the killer returned to find Dolores desperately trying to escape. But with her hands tightly bound, freedom was impossible. She remained firmly under his control. Accepting the inevitable, she surrendered, revealing the crucial details that led to a client in Chicago. Once he had what he needed, the killer acted without hesitation. With a swift, practiced motion, he twisted her neck, then sent her tumbling down the stairs, carefully staging the scene to resemble a tragic accident. His work was precise. No loose ends, no second chances. The killer meticulously wiped away every trace, eliminating all evidence, including the body of the lawyer, until nothing remained. A few days later, he set his sights on Florida, determined to hunt down his first target, a man known as Brute. After scouting the house of Brute, he analyzed every detail with precision. The man was not alone. He had guests, and more importantly, a vicious guard dog that would need to be dealt with. Wasting no time, the killer made a detour to a nearby grocery store, purchasing ground beef and sleeping pills. With his plan in motion, he returned to the place of Brute, ready to execute the next phase of his mission. That evening, Brute joined a crew of thieves at a casino where they indulged in a night of gambling, eager to spend a portion of their stolen earnings. Hours later, he parted ways with the group and headed home alone, exactly the opportunity the killer had been waiting for. Moving with calculated precision, he first dealt with the guard dog, tossing it ground beef laced with sleeping pills. Within minutes, the once ferocious animal fell silent, slipping into a deep, drugged sleep. With the immediate threat neutralized, the killer slipped inside the building, his every step measured and soundless. He knew exactly where Brute was, inside the bathroom. The hunt was nearing its end. The moment the killer stepped inside, Brute lunged at him, mistaking him for a daring thief. A brutal struggle erupted, both men fighting with raw, unrelenting force.
Is that the Dominican Republican? It is you, isn't it? You know, most people...
Narrowly evading the beast, the killer did not hesitate. He hurled a Molotov cocktail through the window, watching as flames roared to life, consuming every last trace of his presence. His work here was done. With his next target waiting in New York, he moved swiftly, purchasing a standard ticket, scrubbing away any remnants of blood in a cold shower, and preparing for the next phase of his relentless pursuit. The killer rented an unremarkable car, blending seamlessly into the backdrop of the city as he made his way to the home of the specialist, the woman who had played a role in the attack on his girlfriend. Armed with forged documents under a false identity, he had no idea what she looked like, so he waited. Patience paid off when a blonde woman emerged. Locking onto his target, he tailed her through the streets, keeping his distance until they reached a traffic light. It was the perfect moment. His hand hovered near his weapon, ready to strike. But something made him hesitate. Instead of pulling the trigger, he chose a different approach. He let her go, following her instead to a restaurant where he would meet her face to face. The specialist's blood ran cold as she recognized the man before her, the relentless killer seeking vengeance for the crime she had once defended. Fear tightened around her throat, but she tried to mask it, scrambling for an excuse. She spoke of orders she could not refuse, of circumstances beyond her control. But the killer was unmoved. Mercy was not in his nature, and forgiveness was out of the question. Though he did not fully trust her, he played along, accepting her invitation for a drink before casually suggesting a walk. A chill ran through her. In that moment, she understood her days were numbered, with death lurking just beyond the horizon. Every breath, every step, every heartbeat became painfully precious. She clung to one final hope, that the killer would choose a place of beauty for her death, granting her a shred of dignity in her tragic end. Desperation led her to attempt one last trick, a futile effort to lure him into a trap. But he was faster. Before she could act, a single gunshot rang out, ending her life in an instant. With her death, the killer uncovered the mastermind behind it all, Mr. Claybourne, a billionaire residing in a heavily secured estate in Chicago. Wasting no time, he set off for the city, meticulously tracking where his target was. Infiltrating the underground parking lot, he discovered an electronic lock blocking his path. It was just another obstacle, another layer of security to bypass. And for the killer, it was merely the prelude to what came next. He acquired a duplicate key card and secured a membership at the billionaire gym, blending seamlessly into the routine of the inner circle around Claybourne. To ensure a clean operation, he also procured a brand new firearm, one untraceable and never before used, after discreetly transferring funds into a separate account. By morning, the package arrived, delivering the key card he needed. Wasting no time, the killer set his plan into motion. He broke into a locker belonging to a security guard at the gym, swiping the card to guarantee effortless access. Then, while the others were distracted with their workouts, he quietly slipped away, making his way back to the estate belonging to Claybourne to execute the next phase of his mission. When the killer confronted the billionaire, demanding answers, the truth took an unexpected turn. The billionaire admitted he had no direct involvement in what had happened. He had simply been hired to eliminate a rival businessman, a job he accepted without question, unaware of the ripple effect it would cause. After the sniper failed to take out the target, the lawyer had demanded additional payment to erase all traces of the operation. As the killer listened, he realized the man before him was not the mastermind he had been hunting. There was no deception in his words, no hidden agenda, just a wealthy man caught in the crossfire of a game he thought he controlled. Understanding that this was not the person truly responsible for his girlfriend's suffering, the killer made his decision. He would let the billionaire live. The killer issued a final warning to Claybourne. If he ever tried to track him down or seek revenge, there would be no mercy next time. With that, he vanished from Chicago, returning to his safe house to erase any remaining traces of his mission. In the closing scene, his girlfriend is discharged from the hospital, and the two escape to a serene beach, finally finding a moment of peace after the chaos. As the waves roll in and the sun sets, the story comes to an end. What makes The Killer stand out is that it is not your typical fast-paced Hollywood action movie. Instead of relying on non-stop shootouts or explosive set pieces, David Fincher builds tension through silence, precision, and psychological depth. From the very beginning, the film creates a cold and unsettling atmosphere, pulling us into the mind of a man who lives like a machine, controlled, disciplined, and emotionally detached. What I found most interesting is the contradiction within the main character himself. He constantly repeats strict rules to stay focused. Never trust anyone, never get attached, never allow emotions to interfere. He believes perfection and routine are the keys to survival. But the moment he makes a single mistake, the entire system he built for himself starts to collapse. And beneath that calm, emotionless exterior, we slowly begin to see traces of fear, anger, paranoia, and even humanity. Michael Fassbender delivers an incredible performance in this role. He does not rely on dramatic dialogue or exaggerated emotion, yet every look, every movement, and every moment of silence feels intense and calculated. He manages to make the character both terrifying and strangely vulnerable at the same time. His performance is one of the biggest reasons why the film feels so immersive. Visually, the movie is exactly what you would expect from David Fincher: dark, clean, and meticulously crafted. Every shot feels deliberate, from the lighting and camera angles to the pacing and editing. The film has this constant sense of control, almost as if we are watching a predator carefully study every move before striking. Even the sound design and music are subtle but incredibly effective, creating tension without overwhelming the audience. Another thing I really appreciate about The Killer is that the film never tries to turn the main character into a hero. He is still a cold-blooded assassin who kills without hesitation. But the movie allows us to understand the way he thinks and the isolated world he lives in. That is what makes the story feel more grounded and realistic compared to many other assassin films. That said, this definitely will not be a movie for everyone. The pacing is slow, the action is restrained, and the story focuses far more on atmosphere and psychology than spectacle. If you are expecting a loud, high-energy action thriller, this film may feel too quiet or too minimalistic. But if you enjoy slow-burn psychological stories with strong direction and character depth, then The Killer is absolutely worth watching. To me, The Killer is more than just a revenge story. It is a film about loneliness, obsession, control, and the illusion of perfection. It shows that no matter how hard someone tries to become emotionless and untouchable, they can never completely escape their human nature. The value of a film lies in its reputation, while the value of a review lies in the feeling. The story today ends here. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this film? Please comment below.